Good afternoon, world changers. I hope you're all well. It is Suzy Beaumont here, personal development consultant and founder of Change Your World. And I'm joined by Kamalyn Kaur, who is a mindset coach, psychotherapist, and founder of Key Therapies, and a generally wonderful human being.
So, oh, what a lovely thing to say.
Well, it is. Honestly, it's such a pleasure working with you, Cam. We were supposed to start this podcast about half an hour ago.
But we started talking about the Ukrainian president and how wonderful he is.
Yeah, and we'll probably talk about it more. I think we've got a bit of a crush on his amazing leadership skills. He is fantastic. So,
a true leader.
What we're talking about today, so as each week, me and myself and Cam are invited onto BBC Radio Scotland, onto Kate Adams, onto the morning show, and we're doing this regular winter wellness feature. So it'll be running until the end of March. And we were invited on to explore the topic of negative news, just when all these traumatic events are on our news channels, social media, and you're just bombarded with it, and how you handle that without it be completely traumatizing you. So as usual, it's only a 10-minute slot. So me and Cam have decided to do this podcast each week, just following on to give more tools, tips and advice to help you. So if you've got any comments on the subject, please do put them in the comments below. Tell us where you're listening from. We'd love to know. We'd love to hear. But yeah, very much. Obviously, recent news is all about the Ukraine invasion, and some of the scenes have been horrendous. The suffering that we're seeing is awful. It really is. And I just don't know that we really, I know you can. You feel very close to this. It feels like this is different from other things that you've seen and watched. I mean, how are you responding to it? How do you feel about this? And how are you watching the news, which is different from how you would respond to any other traumatic event?
Yeah. So I'm not a news watcher at all. And I put my hands up to it and I say it openly to anybody and everybody that I know. So I'm not a person that regularly goes on apps, watches the news, is constantly watching BBC, like nothing like that at all. I usually just limit my contact with that or have no contact whatsoever. So I think during the whole of COVID, I probably watched like the live news twice. Once when there was an announcement, and then the second time when they started talking about the vaccine rollout. Everything else I'll just get from either just headlines or just the news feed on Google, like a little bit, but I'll never read the full article. But for some reason, I just cannot stop watching this. And I think it's just the shock and the disbelief of how quickly the world has changed in such a short time, but also watching the lives of these individuals change overnight. Like they're going to bed, Suzy, one day, like just hoping to get up the next day like normal, like we all do, and get on with work. And they've probably got a to-do list about the things that they need to do in the next day.
So everyday
and they're woken
stuff.
up with, just everyday stuff that we think is important at that point, which obviously in hindsight isn't. And they wake up with sirens, and literally in that split second, their entire existence has changed, right? There's people that are traveling 800 miles with young children to get to a safe place and to get to another part of the world and get to another part of Europe. There's people there that are preparing themselves mentally to fight, and they've never picked a weapon up or even owned or looked at a weapon directly before. There's people there that are having to make a choice about whether we're going to stay and like stay with our older relatives that can't travel, or are we going to try and save the future, which is our young children, and have to leave the country? Like they're having to make these life and death decisions in literally overnight and pack all their lives in a bag and leave if that's what they're choosing to do. And I think the scale at which this is happening, I think this is why I'm actually obsessively watching it, because I'm just like, oh my God, everything's unfolding so quickly day by day. That's one element of it. But the second element is this Ukrainian president, who I've probably never even paid any attention to beforehand, didn't even know what he looked like. I am absolutely mesmerized by his leadership styles, right? The way this man shows up, the way he presents himself, the way he articulates himself, the way he's got people on command doing things. You need to introduce sanctions, you need to cut him off, you need to let me be part of the EU Union, you need to let me sign up, you need to all speak up. If this is not us, if we don't, if we are not fighting for Ukraine, we're fighting for your freedom. I mean, the language and the way that he articulates articulates himself. I just
He's a
think,
true
my
leader.
God,
He really is.
really is, right? And he's managed to get people from other countries to sign up to like Foreign Legion programs and like to actually sign up to go and fight in his country, right? But that's not because he's telling them, that's because he's doing these things as well. He's inspiring people. And I'm actually getting goosebumps as I'm saying this. And I just think, I just think, how can I not watch that? This is going to go down in history. See, in a few years' time, people are going to talk about him, right? We don't know what the outcome is going to be of this, but people will never forget the strength and the commitment and the determination and the drive and the passion, but also the fire that this guy has shown during such a critical point of his country's history. And I think this is, to answer your question, I think this is why I'm obsessively watching it, because it's just like, how is this on? Like, it's such a stark comparison, Susie. On one side, you've got this country that is crumbling, but then on the other side, you've got people that are fighting for it as well, right? And it's just that
it really is a David and Goliath story, isn't it?
It's just
And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, could you imagine Boris Johnson or Nicola Sturgeon going out there and leading the way he has led? I mean, it's just incredible to watch. And I mean, what I will say about watching this, that is, if there are positives that can come out of such a traumatic situation, seeing him step up like that and seeing him getting people coming together and uniting people, that is amazing. The challenge, of course, we've got is the other side of it, when we are seeing the suffering, we're seeing people losing their lives, and I mean the horrific scenes, and also all the propaganda that's going on and not knowing what's true. I mean, I watched something the other day. I saw this tank rolling over this pensioner driving down the street, and it was horrendous.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Now it turns out I flipped onto Facebook the other day, and somebody was saying all the myths about the Ukraine invasion, and apparently that video didn't even come from there. Now I don't know if it's true either way, and they said it was from some other war. Now it was horrendous that it happened anyway, whichever war it was. But I felt duped and annoyed, because I was like, I emotionally was charged by that, watching that. It really traumatized me watching it. I really felt affected by it. And I just thought that scene was horrendous. And then to find out, actually, that scene wasn't from the war I thought it was. I mean, still horrendous scene. But so then you get into all this kind of what's true, what's not. You don't trust anything, who's right, who's wrong. You hear both sides of it, and you become just in this cycle of overwhelm, and especially if you are sensitive to seeing these scenes, and you are left feeling helpless, full of anger, rage, all these emotions, and you're like, what do you do with them? So from a psychotherapist point of view, not from your personal point of view about how you're responding to it, how can people respond when they're seeing these scenes? Because we do feel that we need to watch them, we need to keep on top of the news, but how can we stop it spiraling out of control to it's having a really negative impact on us?
So that's the answer there. If you are watching it, so I'm watching the news all the time, it's not having a negative effect to me. I want to know what's happening, and it actually makes me feel better when I'm watching it, right? Because I know what's happening. And that's how it should be feeling for anybody that's watching it. But if it gets to that point where it's having a negative effect and it's affecting your health and well-being, and it's evoking a real emotional reaction in you, then you need to set a boundary. And that boundary could be anything from switching off altogether from social media or the TV, or maybe managing your media diet and limiting it to certain points of the day or certain periods of time, or limiting it to a reliable source so that you're not being fed information that may be inaccurate.
It's a reliable source now. Who knows?
Who knows? But I guess it's about what you feel is reliable to you, or what you feel comfortable watching, so that you're not getting all this information bombarded from every single angle. So I think that's where you do need to put a boundary in place and manage that media diet based on the fact that it's affecting your health and well-being. So that's one of the obvious things to do. The second thing to do is speak to people about how you're feeling. You're not alone in how you're feeling. Anybody that's watching the news and watching these scenes is going to feel powerless. They're going to feel out of control, and they're going to feel overwhelmed, and they're going to feel helpless. combination of these feelings is always going to create stress and anxiety within us. So the fact that you're feeling like that, you're not in isolation. There's going to be other people feeling the same. So don't be embarrassed or ashamed or guilty about how you're feeling. Talk to other people, because sometimes when you talk about it, it makes you realize how normal and natural your reaction actually is. And then the third thing is change your mindset around it. When you're focusing on the things in the news, to a large extent, you're focusing on the things that you can't control, because we can't control that war, and we can't control the actions of a demented man that is basically on some kind of like power trip, right? We genuinely can't control that. But you can control the amount of media exposure you have, what sources you're watching, who you're talking to, what kind of conversations you're having around you, what kind of exercise you're getting, whether you want to find a balance and how you want to restore that balance. So these are things in your inner circle, in your own private life, that you can control. And it might seem insignificant in comparison to what's going on the other side of the world, but it's important if you want to maintain your health and well-being, because this could go on for a while and you can't burn yourself out by watching and reliving the same scenes again and again.
Yeah, because we are actually re-traumatizing ourselves when we can keep re-watching. I mean, you know, I use the word negative impact if it's having a negative impact on you. And, you know, as soon as you use that phrase, you think, oh, well, that's not good. But actually, that negative impact can drive you to take positive action. So it's not always negative.
A bad thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, what, you know, if you find yourself, you are affected, you think, okay, I actually can't switch off completely, because ignorance doesn't seem bliss. Ignorance seems wrong to me to not absorb, not watch what we're doing. But if somebody is feeling, okay, I need to watch it, but I need to be able to channel those emotions that I'm feeling, you know, that energy. What's some of the things they might be able to do?
So find out so first of all, you need to find out, what is that emotion asking you to do? Do you need to step away from it altogether and not have any contact with it and just like isolate? Because for some people it's a complete and utter shutdown and detox, right? Or is that emotion telling you that you have to do something because you're feeling a bit helpless right now? If it is the latter one, then there's a few options out there. So you can donate money to charities that are supporting Ukrainian people. You can donate money to charities that are maybe supporting certain causes in Ukraine right now, water sources, humanitarian aid, other resources that they might need. There's also an account that the Ukrainian bank have set up, which is specifically the funds of that is going to the army to support the Ukrainian army. You can actually find the details of that online as well and support directly to that if you want to. And also, if if Britain is going to be taking on people, find out what your council is doing about it. Sign up. You can become a volunteer to take refugees in, or to take the people into your home if you want to offer them temporary accommodation. So you can actually sign up to other resources. So there's lots of things that you can actually do. But at this point in time, until we have a better idea of the situation, the main and the most obvious things is donating your time or donating money, making yourself available should some of these people be coming into Britain, and how you can support them, and also maybe funding certain causes that you believe in, and you know that the money is going to go directly to Ukrainian people.
Yeah, and if you're not in a position to fund, you know, you don't have the money, or you can't donate your time or volunteer, even just sending a message, putting something up on your Facebook feed, or, you know, your social media of the Ukraine flag, because that was one of the interviews that I heard, was a woman just talking about seeing the support coming from other countries, you know, and seeing it coming through news media, social media, and that meant that they didn't feel alone. They felt like the world was watching on, and they weren't just bystanders, they were in support and solidarity of them. So, you know, if you are sort of sitting there thinking, there's nothing I can physically do right now, you know, those little things do mount up. It's a compound effect of just lots of people coming together. It does make a difference. But also remembering, and I did say this in the radio show, that you might not be able to do something right now, but given time, something further down your line, you know, we are going to see lots of refugees coming to our country seeking homes, and, you know, there'll be all kinds of things that you might be able to do then. So maybe if you're not right now, but the key thing is not to feel guilty if you are not in a position and you don't have the capacity, because you might have your own challenges going on, and whilst they are very different to the suffering that's going on in a war zone, they are still your reality. That is still your war zone, and you need to respond to it, you know. So don't, it's about, if you have the capacity, the skill set to do something, then absolutely take action on it.
Yeah.
I mean, the leadership, I do want to talk about this, because I think this is one of the challenges that why we do feel so helpless, is because to not do anything and to watch these scenes unfold, we feel like bystanders.
Yeah.
You know, we feel like, and when you're a bystander, you feel like you can feel like you are part of the problem. You are not doing anything to help, so therefore you are a bystander to the crime, you are a witness to it, and you're not getting involved. And that is a very uncomfortable feeling, you know, because if somebody was getting hurt in front of us, we wouldn't just walk on by.
Yeah.
You know, but these scenes that we see on our screens, on our social media and our radio, they're very present. They're like brought right into your home. And that's when we look to our leaders, because we're like, okay, I physically can't, there's nothing in my control to change this. So we go to our leaders, and then we see a completely...
And then you see them having garden parties.
Exactly. You're just like, you know, yeah, like I said, you would not see Boris Johnson out on the streets the way that the Ukrainian president has been. So how do we deal with that feeling when... you know, we are looking for leadership, we're looking for the governments to do something, and it's not happening, and then we feel despondent, mistrustful, you know, just, you know,
a bit redundant. Yeah, you just feel a bit redundant and a bit empty. So again, that comes back to the point I was making, because now you're focusing on something that you can't control. So you can't control the way that the leaders are responding, or the actions that they're taking, or the lack of action, even in this case, that they're taking. So you need to focus on what can you control. If you feel that strongly about it, do you want to go to your local MSP and maybe raise an issue with them? Do you want to go to your counsellor and raise an issue with them? Who is the person to, like, because MSPs hold surgeries as well. Do you want to maybe go and make an appointment at a surgery and raise your concerns, or find out from them what they're doing? There's petitions probably set up as well. Like, there's so much stuff happening out there. So the thing is that there's not just one way of holding your leaders accountable. There's so many different avenues to it. So if you feel that your leaders are a little bit not, I'm trying to think of the right word here without being horrible, are not your guiding stars, right? Crap. And they're not offering any leadership or any kind of like consolation or any kind of support or reassurance, then you can seek that reassurance yourself. So what would make you feel reassured? What would make you feel comforted? What are the questions that you have, that the answers to which will make you feel a bit more settled? So again, it comes back to the point I was making. Focus on the things that you can control rather than focusing on the things that you can't control.
Absolutely. And just to give, I mean, I'm conscious time is running out, but physically, what is going on in the body when we witness traumatic events, and when we see them, or what can go on, because I know everybody responds individually and, you know, won't always go into a stress response, but can you give us a breakdown of what actually is happening to us and how we dissipate those feelings, what we can do on a physical level?
Yeah. So one of three things is going to happen when you see something traumatic happening. You're going to have the fight, flight, or freeze response that's going to take place. So the fight response is going to be where you completely get so angry and so raging and so frustrated and so agitated about what's going on, and you'll get really impatient about what's everybody doing, why is this person not doing this, and what's he doing and what's she doing. Like, you'll get that kind of a really emotionally charged reaction. The flight reaction is going to be where you completely just withdraw, and the anxiety is so over consuming. I can't see, I don't want to watch it, I don't want anything to do with it because it's just too overwhelming. The freeze response is where you're seeing it, you're taking it in, you're aware of everything that's happening on an intellectual and mental capacity, you're taking it all in, but emotionally it's not sinking in yet. So emotionally there's no response there, so you're still in autopilot here. So what you're doing is
it's getting locked into your nervous system.
Or but see, that locking in, it usually happens in the flight mechanism, to be honest, because you're literally just going, no, I can't, and it's just staying in your chest or in your tummy. See, with the freeze, that's usually when you have a delayed reaction. So in that moment you think you're fine, I'm not affected by it, I'm totally okay, absolutely fine. And then a few months down the line or a few weeks down the line, it will just hit you, and all it's going to take is like for a tiny little thing to actually activate or trigger that response off. So these are, you're probably, anybody that's listening to this and watching the news or watching what's happening in the world, they'll be doing one of those 3 responses basically, right? And what's happening inside the body is the brain is communicating to the body and saying, we are not safe, we are in danger, so prepare yourself for fight, flight, or freeze. That's basically what it's doing. So you've got a whole rush of stress hormones, and you've got adrenaline, and you've got cortisol running through your body. Your adrenal glands are on full swing as well. And what that does is it creates a lot of emotion inside our body, and it creates a lot of physical symptoms inside our body. And these forms of energy that's created as a result of these chemicals can only be released through physical exercise, by moving your body, by meditating, by focusing on your breathing, getting out in nature, and just kind of releasing that, just to restore that balance. So if you cannot switch off from here, then focus on your body, because your body does not have the capacity to overthink. It is only your mind that can do that. So if you're finding it difficult to control the mind, control the body instead, because that helps restore that balance.
I mean, a really simple technique is really dropping down into your heart. Get out of your head and get into your heart, because the heart is actually the first organ to be affected by stress. So actually concentrate on your heart, deep breathing, like you're saying, and just really sort of recognizing where you're holding tension in your body, because that's you in the stress response, and getting out of that. It's 3 minutes to 4, Cam.
My God, that's the quickest podcast ever.
I know. I just feel like we've just started yapping, but we are going to be doing more of these. If you've got more questions, please put them in the comments below. We will respond to them. And if you are struggling, please reach out either to myself or Cam. Cam's an amazing psychotherapist and mindset coach. We do loads of stuff here at Change Your World. We've got numerous coaches that can help you, and we have our daily coaching group as well. So you are not alone. I also do stress management, so don't suffer in silence. Reach out for help, speak to somebody, and get the help. You know, don't suffer in silence.
Don't suffer in silence. And I've got an Instagram page, so I'm going to actually be doing reels this week as well, Suzy, on the Ukrainian crisis and how to manage that and how to support other people. So in case that's helpful to any of your audience.
Well, all the details are in the post, and yes, do check out Cam's Instagram posts, because I follow you on Instagram, and they are great. So you need to run, you've got your client.
I know, I've got my appointment. Thank you so much. And we should do a part 2 of this. That's what we should do.
I think we'll be doing part 2 on leadership next week, definitely, because we need more leaders like the Ukrainian president, definitely.
Definitely. Thank you, Suzy. Speak to you soon. Bye. Bye. Bye.